From intense workout sessions to get that incredible body, to binging rom-coms for the greater good, here's how Sam Heughan prepares for his roles. Let's be real, where would Outlander be without his shirtless scenes? It's no secret that we all tune into the historical fantasy drama because of a certain guilty pleasure. Of course, the show itself is amazing too, but I know you can't deny that it's really Heughan who keeps you coming back to it. I don't blame you at all. It's impossible to not fangirl over him. After all, he works pretty darn hard for it. You can't just be a Scottish warrior in the 18th century and not have huge guns and rock-hard abs. Like, where are those grueling hours of working out in the open going? Luckily for us, Heughan took on the role quite well. He's had a strict routine going on to keep him in shape, and after all these years of becoming Jamie Fraser, he's as much of an athlete as he is a star. All jokes aside, his physique is pretty important for his role. His character's always getting into some scraps, as the actor himself puts it. It could be fighting, horse riding, or saving his wife from some sort of villain. On top of all that, he's shirtless for pretty much most of it. So how is it that Jamie Fraser stays looking good? By devoting more than half of your day to working out. It's a good thing the Scottish actor is into fitness, because he's had to train a whole lot for the role, and it's not just simple bodyweight exercises either. He really wanted to get the look of an outdoorsy, rugged man, since they didn't have gyms, or an obsession with six-packs back in the 18th century. So Heughan's gotten intensive training in martial arts and Muay Thai over in Thailand, and he's incorporated Olympic lifts into a CrossFit-style program, specifically to help him gain muscle and definition without getting injured. If you want to look just like him, here's what you need to do. Heughan focuses on keeping his workouts functional because of Jamie's requirements. All the exercises are strength-based, so he'll have compound lifts, farmer, split rack, and overhead carries. His personal favorite are the farmer carries. All of that's sure to get your blood pumping and sweat running. But if you're like the Scot, you'd go in for another CrossFit-style workout for the day. Also, he keeps alternating between strength training and cardio, and for that, he chooses cycling, running, or hiking. Getting that authentic look for the role is key. But it's not all just about looking good for those shirtless shots. Sam's workout regimen is actually a survival mechanism. Sure, he's not an actual warrior, but acting the part ain't a walk in the park either. Filming Outlander has always been intense, with shoots stretching to 14 or 16 hours, mostly in the outdoors. And let's not forget the dialogue-heavy scenes. He has to remember the day's lines and even memorize tomorrow's, all while braving the cold and rugged terrain of Scotland's north. The actor jokingly called it a runaway train that never stops. Somehow, he's managed to keep up with that train, if not run faster than it. But sometimes even a warrior like him needs a break. I'm sure you've already wondered if he ever gets tired of this backbreaking routine. Well, he doesn't mind it as much since he's kind of a fitness freak. But he's been forced to take breaks, and they've made him realize that sometimes he should just take it slow. After all, he got a pretty bad injury riding his bike at the end of 2022, and the poor guy ended up with a torn MCL and a knee fracture. But you know what they say, there's a lesson behind everything. This time around, Heughan had to rethink some of his lifestyle choices because, believe it or not, being too healthy isn't great either. The 49-year-old actor was out here doing CrossFit while he cycled there and back, and if that wasn't enough, he'd try his best to fit a second workout in the day. I mean, I can't even do one workout in a day. This man is just something else, but even he finally understood that his routine was just a little too much. And guess what? He's been that experimental with his diet too. He's gone from vegan to full-on carnivore and has even dabbled in the Atkins diet. He's always up for trying new fads and seeing how his body reacts. But you know what? In the end, he always comes back to what he calls eating cleanly. According to Sam, his body thrives on carbohydrates, especially porridge. Honestly, that's something I've never heard another person say. Apparently, porridge is his #1 power food. And the best part is, there are countless ways to enjoy it. He likes to mix in flavored protein powder like chocolate or vanilla, and then adds all sorts of toppings. It's like a blank canvas, and he gets to be the artist. Turns out he actually really enjoys cooking, so creating healthy dishes in the kitchen is pretty fun for him. But here's the thing. When the SAS Red Notice star is on set or traveling, finding good food options can be a real challenge. So, he's got a trusty box of protein bars always within reach. They keep him fueled and satisfied when he's in a pinch. But that's not all. He also relies on supplements to give his immunity a boost and keep his energy levels up. I'm sure those long and exhausting days on set require some extra support, both physically and mentally. And it's not always the same routine either. Of course, every new project demands something different from him. Sometimes he's a Scottish warrior. Other times he's got to be a spy, or an elite soldier, or even a Navy SEAL. Each of these men had to look a bit different from each other, and Heughan's had to change up his regime every time to whatever suits his character best. For instance, turning into Jimmy Dalton was nothing like Jamie Fraser. The bloodshot actor had to hit the gym consistently, for one, and all that strength training he was used to just didn't cut it for this role. Heughan posted sneak peeks into his intense preparation before the film had come out, and boy did it look hard as hell. It wasn't your typical weightlifting routine. Instead, it was all about honing his kickboxing skills, pulling ropes, and pushing sleds. That role was all about looking ready to beat someone up, so a lot of muscle and strength was required from him. But being a spy requires neither of the two. After all, spying is all about stealth and flexibility. You have to blend in, not stand out. All that bulk he had on himself from strength training for Jamie had to be cut down. Instead, he had to be ready for a bunch of fight training and stunt work. And you won't believe what he did to achieve that. Every morning and evening, he would go for walks and jogs for about 30 to 45 minutes. And you know what made those workouts even more enjoyable? Podcasts. He's a big fan of the Tim Ferriss show, so he'd pop in his earbuds and listen away while getting his steps in. Multitasking at its finest, right? But he'd also keep his body guessing and add some spice to his workouts, with some sprints or mobility work. Whenever the cast would have time off, he'd just be running around shirtless. His castmates, Mila Kunis and Kate McKinnon, saw him around like that so often, they just got used to it. As a young star who had to travel a lot, Heughan had discovered that the best way to stay fit was running. He could never adjust to gyms, what with the frequent shifts in locations, so he'd just explore new cities by jogging around. And years of running ended up turning it into a hobby and then a passion. At this point, what's most impressive about him isn't his physique, although it's a strong contender, but it's the way he molds himself to every circumstance. I'm convinced that there's no scenario that he can't thrive in, and his latest movie just confirms that. After years of playing the hero or anti-hero, the Scottish heartthrob finally starred in a rom-com. You heard that right. He's going to make your heart beat faster than ever, especially since he's even gotten the perfect training for it. This was nothing like pulling ropes or running laps, no. This movie took a whole lot of sitting and lying down in front of the TV, binging the best of Hollywood's rom-coms. This was probably the first time he'd ever been underprepared for a role. After all, he's never really been in a rom-com before, but he does know romance. And he's done comedy in The Spy Who Dumped Me, so there was nothing a bit of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks couldn't teach him. Being the great learner he is, he studied a lot of material, and actually ended up falling in love with the genre himself. If you don't believe me, watch Love Again and see how you fall for him. So, from binging rom-coms to intense workout sessions to get that incredible body, that was how Sam Heughan prepares for his roles.